Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's your boy Breezy Blix. So today we're going to be talking about some of the more commonly found pistol cartridges. So I guess we'll start this off with the 380, right? The 380, nothing great. It's a 380 auto. If you're not really confident with a 9 millimeter, this is usually a great alternative until you can feel confident enough. It's bigger than a 22, or yeah, it is. It's bigger than a 22. It's stronger, right? Quote unquote stronger. Um, but it's just not the most effective round in the world. I uh, I wouldn't recommend carrying this to a lot of people, but some people can't handle a 9 mil, some people can't handle a 45, 40, 50 cal. You name it. Some people can't handle it. So sometimes the 380 is the best choice. It's a very small round, so you can fit 15 in a subcompact gun and keep it tucked away in your little purse or your pocket. The list goes on. It is like I said, not the most effective round if you're trying to stop a threat. Usually, the bullets, the hollow points, don't have enough velocity or enough power to expand, so they basically turn into full metal jackets. Now, if you are going to carry 380, the alternative options for ammo would be, copper points, the ones that are made out of copper on the top and they're not hollow points, they don't expand. There's a solid copper that you're shooting. Those are typically going to be your better options because of the low power these bullets have. So, with that being said, if you're going to carry a 380, carry a 380, but definitely make sure you shoot him in the face. Now, we're going to move on to the 9 millimeter, the 380's older brother, right? Same, practically, practically almost the same bullet, it's just a bigger casing and a slightly bigger bullet. Like I said, older brother, bigger brother. So you got this. It's a 9x19 Parabellum. And this is one of the more common rounds that we use in America and all over the world. Um, this is usually used by civilians as well as police officers. 90%, maybe 75, we'll just be generous. 75% of law enforcement agencies do use a 9 millimeter round. So, if that doesn't say anything, then I don't know what else does. Um, this is one of your more cheaper rounds. You can get this a little bit cheaper than you can get 380 ammo. Um, it's unfortunate, but that is the case. Now, this has good power. The 9 mil does have good power, good solid velocity if you can get some good loaded ammo. Now, getting good loaded ammo, that's where all of it kind of depends. For me, I only use Hornady or Federal, or I do have some Underwood fluid transfer monolithic rounds that are the copper points that I was talking about. Those are some of the ones that I carry. Now, again, not everybody feels comfortable with the 9 mil. Sometimes it's not easy to handle the recoil for whatever reason if you're using like a very compact pistol or subcompact. But this is usually your go-to. Most pistols that are full size that you carry with 9 millimeters start off with 17, 15 ish rounds in the magazine and then one in the chamber. So it's pretty good. And like I said, usually reliable, but everything has its downside. I've seen plenty of videos of people getting shot with these and they stop what they're doing, being shot by police. But then I've seen videos and badge cams of police shooting somebody 5 or 6 times and he keeps getting up trying to come for him. So uh take it with the fucking grain of salt. Cause I'm not God and I don't know everything. I'm just an asshole on the internet. But moving on. Now some people don't like 9 mil. Some people feel like that's just too small of a round. It's not gonna do what I need it to do. If that crackhead is on fucking PCP again, and I'm gonna have to shoot him fucking 20 times and then 3 times in the head, and so everybody just moves on to 45 ACP, 45 automatic Colt pistol, and this right here is a Hornady round, so that's what that little red plug is right there. These are the critical duty line, I believe, or critical defense. I forgot. Um, 45. What can I say about it, right? It's been through two world wars, probably a bunch of foreign countries we shouldn't have been in anyway. Um, but it's still an American icon. Who doesn't love fucking 45 ACP? The 1911? Come on, man. John Moses, he knew what he was doing. That's my guy forever. I appreciate you, John Moses. I appreciate you. But for some people, this is too slow moving. Sometimes it's not going to have the right impact that you want it to. Some people say that it even underperforms more than any other caliber out there, aside from 380. Because 380, typically, it's not going to rip through that clothing and have the intended impact. Where this, if somebody shoots you with this, I don't give a fuck how you feel about it. It's going to do its job. Now, again, some people don't like that. Some people don't want this big ass bullet. Some people want the 9 millimeter because of, how small it is. Look at that. Look at that. That is hell of a difference, my friend. Hell of a difference. So, it's just one of those things where it's kind of on preference. But, this has a lot of kick, but it doesn't have a lot of kick at the same time once you get used to it. You know, all it takes is practice. So, any round is essentially effective as long as you're training and you're proficient with it, like I always say. Now, some people don't want 45, some people want something better. I don't really know where you would go that's better for a handheld, a handgun, a pistol, revolver type, I guess, except for the 10 millimeter. The 10 millimeter, right? 10 millimeter. These are also Hornady. That's the red plug as well. So just for just to show kind of the difference. Can't fit them all up here, but there's a quite the difference in these rounds. You can see the difference. It's 9 millimeter on the bottom, 45 in the middle, and then 10 mil up top. Now the 10 millimeter is special, right? It's special because the history behind it is kind of fucking sucky. So the 10 mil by Jeff Cooper, right, was very overpowered, very very overpowered, and the FBI used to carry a 10 millimeter. Now, why is this important? Well, because it made one of the shittiest rounds of ammunition get manufactured, and that is the 40 cal. Now, see, the FBI, they their wrists were too weak, so they couldn't handle the recoil of a fully loaded 10 millimeter round. They couldn't handle it. They were just, my wrist, I can't shoot it. And you know what? I forgive them because they're just some punk bitches and they don't know no better. But Smith and Wesson said, "Hey, Mr. Federal Government, you know what I do for you? I'll take that same power and put it into a smaller casing." And the feds were like, "Yeah, you know what? That'll help our weak wrists. So then, when I go home and get beat on by my wife, I can actually defend myself and block, you know." But that's a different story. So there we go. We have the 40 cal, and I don't own a 40 because I'm a man and I'm attracted to women, so I would never own a 40. But you know, the 40 and the most unique part about the 40 Smith and Wesson is that the 40 is such a good round of ammunition that nobody carries it except for civilians. The FBI went from 10 millimeter to 40 Smith and Wesson, and then after that, they were like, I think we'll just go back to 9 millimeter because that's effective. So it makes you wonder, in the grand scheme of things, how fucking weak does your wrist have to be for you to say, "Oh, I need a smaller casing on a 10 millimeter"? And the problem with that nowadays is that you can buy a 10 millimeter round, and it's it's not it's not powered. It's not at the right power that Jeff Cooper invented, right? We basically got you know because the 40 and the 10 millimeter are the same thing, right? It's the same projectile, but it's just a shorter casing, like a 9 mil, kind of like a 45. Now, all of the 10 mil you get typically, unless you go to Grizzly, Buffalo Bore, and a couple other brands that I can't think of at the moment. Unless you go to them, you're gonna get underpowered, basically 40 caliber ammo, 40 Smith and Wesson, in a 10 mil box for 10 millimeter price. By the way, 10 millimeter is not cheap, not even to practice with. So that's also a thing. Now, pricing does play a role in people's choice of ammunition sometimes, and as much as it sucks, it's it's real, especially with the way our economics and our economy is going right now. Not everybody can afford to walk around with a fucking 10 millimeter, a 45. You know, God forbid they have enough money to walk around with a fucking 40. Um, so 9 mil is usually your best option because of how cheap you can get it. Now, the price of ammunition, well, that's another story because I'm a firm believer of if you're going to pay high quality dollar, you should get high quality merchandise. And that's not always the case with ammunition, unfortunately. Sometimes you can get some really good performing ammo that's not name brand, right? Like I said, I have Federal, Hornady, I got some Underwood, but sometimes you're not getting the bang for your buck. So you have to shop around because running 9 millimeter is kind of the most cost effective thing you can do aside from 22. 22 is great, but you can't practice with it because nobody realistically carries a 22. That's a plinker. And I would never own one of those just because it serves no purpose with me. Now, again, your choice of ammunition and your firearm may be based on your needs. Now, what are your needs? My needs are self defense, home defense, maybe going into the woods. I might need defense, right? So, for most of that, I can do the 45. But if I'm going into the woods and I might have to shoot a bear or like a bigger predator animal type, then you're going to carry the 10 mil, right? 10 mil. If you have the right loaded 10 mil, then you can take down a bear. But you have to have the right ammunition. If you don't have, it's not properly loaded to the right velocity and et cetera, then it's gonna fail, and you're gonna be living the fucking question of would you rather be in the woods with a man or a bear? You're the man, and you're just gonna be in there with the bear, you know. But if you're just walking around an urban area, work, home, school, city area type shit, not school. Don't take it to a school. Please don't. But if you're traveling college wise and everything like that, and you're carrying, I'd recommend a 45. But with the 45, you have decreased ammo capacity. Whereas a 9 millimeter, you can fit 15 to 17 in a magazine, make it fit flush, and not have the gun be too big. But for a 45, you're gonna have a bulky fucking gun because this is a fat mama. Imagine shoving this fat boy down a tight hole. You can't do that. You gotta have a big hole to fit this big boy through. So that is also going to play a role, right? Because you're going to wonder about concealability, concealment. How can I do this? Whereas a 9 millimeter pistol is usually a lot thinner. You can get them very thin, very thin. So, what kind of gun do you carry? What kind of ammunition do you carry in that gun? What can you handle? What are you proficient with? Because you might want to carry a 45, but you're only proficient with 9 mil. So you'll unfortunately have to get the 9 mil. These are questions you have to ask yourself when buying a gun, thinking about ammo. And like I always tell people, go to the gun range, rent a couple weapons, try some things. It might cost you some money, but at least you're not spending $600 on a fucking Glock you didn't realize you can't shoot or handle. You don't like the way it feels. Because if you're in the market for your first gun and your first thought is like, yeah, let me go and get let me go and get this fucking 10 millimeter, right? Let me go and get a Glock 20 so I can shoot a 10 mil, right? That's probably not going to be your most effective choice for especially for a first weapon. That wouldn't be smart for what somebody would be considered to be a novice, right? A rookie. But that is your choice, and you can spend your money on that. But you know, the sale value is going to be like half of what they're going for in the store. So really a bad time to make those terrible financial choices, you know? But that's just my advice. So, just a quick rerun, right? 45 next to the 10 mil, right? 10 mil is slightly bigger, slightly taller, but the 45 is a fat boy. It's a chode. It's short and fat. Then you got your 9 millimeter defeater. You know, sometimes good things come in small packages. 9 millimeter, 10 millimeter. You know, it's not about the size. It's about the power. Does it have enough power? You know, then you got your 9 and your 45. Do I want to step up, or do I just want to be safe? Do I want to eliminate the threat, or do I want to incapacitate the threat? You know, it's all about what are you trying to do. So, are you gonna you know eliminate the threat, or are you gonna turn that motherfucker to smithereens? What are you planning on doing? And by the way, don't carry this in urban environments. Don't carry a 10 millimeter because goddamn, if you shoot somebody, you're gonna have to go to court and explain that. And when they ask you, well, sir, why did you feel the need to carry a gun that's known to be able to take down a bear? Why did you feel the need to blow this man's back, through blow his chest through his back? Why would you do that? What what made you feel so unsafe and need to do so? And sometimes, even though you have the right to defend yourself, maybe the local government doesn't agree with that. And then you lose your case, become a felon, and so much more because, well, you chose to carry some ammunition that is highly high powered, super high powered. And again, I've never seen anybody get shot in person, so I don't know how strong any of these ammunitions are. I've just seen a lot of ballistic tests, and I will be doing some of my own soon. But until then, remember, protect yourself, be kind to others, always exercise the Second Amendment, and stay safe.